Yeah, welcome everybody for our webinar on volunteering abroad for over 40s. So we know quite a few of you, have a few questions and, want to know some specific what's suitable for your age groups and the different types of projects that are available. So we're really going to be covering a lot of that today. So joining me is our lovely volunteer program manager. So we have Claire, our head of volunteer programs, and then we have Megan as our volunteer program manager, and she also looks after our groups. So between them, they have a wealth of knowledge, and they'll be able to answer pretty much most of your questions. So yeah, what we're going to be covering today is obviously the benefits of volunteering abroad with IVHQ, what you can do, where you can go, what you will get. We're also going to cover how you can choose the right program for you, plus some top destination recommendations, as well as the different types of accommodation that we have, because we know that's something that a lot of you are interested in. And then, of course, we'll cover a few different types of volunteers that we tend to get, along with some testimonials. And then we'll have Jennifer speak about her most recent experience, which was only last week, so it's very fresh, which is great. And then we're just going to open up the floor for everyone and anyone to ask any questions that you might have. So volunteering abroad with IVHQ. I won't get too much into it. I'll let everything kick off with Maren and Claire, who are the volunteer travel experts. So over to you guys.
Okay, so we just wanted to talk about a little bit of an overview of volunteering with IVHQ and some of the benefits that IVHQ offers. So I'm just going to start very quickly by talking about our low-cost fees. The fees do start from around $20 per day. The program fees do vary depending on the destination that you choose, of course, the cost of living in that area, the type of accommodation that you'll be using, the number of meal inclusions. So you'll find that there is a wide variety of different fees associated with our different destinations. But at IVHQ, our intention is always to keep our fees as low as possible, as accessible as possible to as many people as possible, to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to join a program and to create some impact. One of the main ways that we do that is by working with local teams in each destination. So not only does that give you a great cultural experience as well, it does help keep those costs in accordance with the local cost of living, and also helps those funds go back into the local community.
Yeah, and so part of what's covered by those low-cost fees is the pre-departure support and guidance that you get from the program managers here at IVHQ. So once you've submitted an application, you are connected with a dedicated program manager who is here to answer all of your questions and help and support you right up until you're ready to begin the program. You gain access to a program guide once you're registered, and that actually provides you with all the information you need to prepare for your program. It's got information on the visas, the vaccinations, the background checks, what you need to pack, what you need to do, who will pick you up. Absolutely everything is covered by that. And then, of course, once you actually get to the destination, we have those local teams who provide all volunteers with 24/7 support in country. Seeing them in the accommodation, seeing them at your placement, and you'll also have a phone number that you can reach them at any time should you need it.
So your program fee covers the cost of hosting you while you're on the program, and that starts typically with an airport pickup on arrival. It also covers your accommodation. Most of our programs have at least some meals included. You have an orientation on arrival, the support, 24/7 support of our local community, the materials going towards the program, and that's the main thing that the program fees cover. As I say, that will vary from destination to destination, just based on the local circumstances and also what makes sense in terms of your location at lunchtime, for example, and whether it's practical to go back to your host accommodation in order to have lunch, or whether it makes more sense to take care of those arrangements yourself.
Yeah, and we had a lot of questions about the accommodations that we offer. So across our programs, we've got a wide variety. Some of them have homestay accommodation where you're living with a local family. Some of them have volunteer accommodation, volunteer house accommodation, should I say, where all the volunteers are in a house together. And then we also have accommodation upgrades. So in almost all of our destinations, volunteers can choose for, to go from the standard accommodation into a private. Could be a private room shared with a couple or a couple of friends or a small group. Some of them have their own private bathrooms. Some of them still have shared bathrooms. Some of them you get to choose. And we also have a couple of programs where you get your own room as standard, which is fantastic. And then you also have some where we have a hotel as standard. Specifically, I'm talking about the Wild Elephant Conservation Project in Nepal there.
So one of the, quite a few of the questions that we also received just related to the types of projects that are available and whether you need to have any special skills or qualification, or if in fact you can use the skills and qualifications that you have to for contributions. So we do aim to have projects that really cover all of those scenarios. So if you're looking to use your skills, if you're a teacher, if you're a doctor, for example, or a nurse, certainly education and healthcare seem to be areas we get a lot of people wanting to utilise their specific skills in. We can definitely help guide you towards a project that's going to work best for that. If you'd like to go and do something completely different, learn a new skill, then we also have a lot of projects that don't require any previous experience. So as I say, we can really accommodate any of those sort of scenarios.
Yeah, and we can also accommodate a wide variety of volunteers. So, while more than half of our volunteers take part solo, we definitely also have groups. So it could be groups of friends, groups from schools, groups from universities, family groups that are joining us. So you can be sure that even if you're joining our program solo, you'll never actually be on your own.
One of the things that people are always looking for is guidance on what destination would be best for them. And one of the things that we often ask people to consider is the other kinds of experience that you'd like to have on your project as well as the service experience. So one of those might be around learning a new language or improving language skills. So many of our programs do also offer discounts on language courses. Certainly just being in the location is a great opportunity to practice Spanish, for example, if you have those skills. Other projects, maybe French or Arabic, will be useful. All of our programs are administered and run in English, but certainly there is a great opportunity to learn and practice new language skills as well, depending on the destination that you choose. And as I say, many of our local teams do offer language lessons as part of their programming, and as a volunteer you'll have access to discounted rates on those.
Yeah, and we have such a wide range of destinations. We really have something that fits everybody. So whether it's a specific project that you're looking at, we can cover that in one of our 50+ destinations. Or if you're wanting to choose it based on destination specific, we've got programs in Africa, Asia, Latin America, the Pacific, the Caribbean, Europe. So, we really have something for everybody.
Awesome. So you guys obviously briefly covered this in the sort of highlights and overviews. So one of the questions that we do get quite regularly is, what are the accommodation options? Do you get to pick and choose? Are there upgrades available, private rooms, etc.? So we're going to cover, I guess, the sort of top 3 that we get. And I'll let obviously Maren and Claire get into the details of it, but volunteer, house, homestay, and private rooms tend to be popular options. So yeah, why don't you sort of explain or delve into that a little bit more, you guys?
Sure. So one of, as Shirley mentioned, one of the main accommodation options that our programs offer is the volunteer house. This is very much communal living. Rooms tend to be shared with anywhere really between 3, sometimes up to even a dozen people in a room. Most of them are gender-specific rooms, although you might find a couple of examples where it might be a shared room scenario. But yeah, typically volunteer houses, you'll be in gender-specific room accommodations. You will also typically have shared bathroom facilities, and then there'll be communal spaces for you to mix and mingle and socialise with all of the other volunteers who are there. So that's very much what the standard program fee will typically cover. So it's a nice social experience, but obviously doesn't offer perhaps the degree of privacy that some of our more mature volunteers are sometimes looking for. So we will address a couple of other options, of course, if that's the case.
Yeah, so the next option that Shirley mentioned is the homestay accommodation. So this is a really great opportunity for an immersion experience. You get to live with the local family and you get to live like a local. You know, for a majority of them, you have your meals there with the family and you really become part of that family. There's also typically fewer volunteers in a homestay than you would see in a volunteer house accommodation situation. Sometimes there's only 4 or 5 with 2 or 3 to a room. And a lot of our homestays also have private rooms that are available, either with a private bathroom or with a shared bathroom with the rest of the family that you're living with.
And if you are looking for absolute private accommodations, many of our programs do also offer that. We are seeing increasing requests for that. So many of our local teams have made provision either within their standard accommodation, whether it be the volunteer house or the homestay scenario, or they have nearby hotels or other types of accommodation that they can offer for private rooms. Sometimes, again, the private rooms may be a shared bathroom scenario, but also some of our private rooms do also offer private bathroom facilities. So you can search based on your accommodation preferences on our filters and our search function on the website, but we can also help guide you to the programs that will best suit your needs depending on your preference for those private accommodations.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing those different types of accommodation options, guys. Now we're going to get into our top destination recommendations. Obviously, you know, you can come to us directly and talk about if you're looking for something very specific, but Miriam and Claire will cover the top recommendations and sort of give you the reasons why they recommend them.
Sure. So I'm just going to start with some of these recommendations for you. So Jamaica is a fantastic program for a variety of different reasons. It's really wonderful if you are an educator or have some experience or interest in that area. They have a number of great education programs and they absolutely love having people come with some skills that they can share, not only with the children, but also with the teachers. There's been a huge brain drain in Jamaica and a lot of the teachers are quite inexperienced. So they absolutely love having older volunteers with a little bit more experience who can share those skills with them to improve the education even when we don't have volunteers present. We also have some great options for accommodation upgrades in Jamaica. We have a separate volunteer house which is beautifully set up with some ensuite rooms for if you are looking for those private accommodations, and a really wonderful supportive staff on the ground. It's also great if you're looking to combine, of course, a volunteer experience with a bit of a holiday, great holiday destination. So it's absolutely not a problem to do a week's volunteering or a couple of weeks volunteering and add on some personal arrangements either before or after your trip. Tobago, kind of a similar situation. It's a newer program, but unlike Jamaica, which can be a little bit of more of a party destination, Tobago is a little bit quieter, and our local team there does recommend it very much for the more mature volunteers who are perhaps looking to have a more relaxed experience and less of that party vibe. I think Tobago as a destination generally lends itself to that. The accommodation in Tobago is like a twin shared apartment, self-catering sort of scenario. So if you want to just have that privacy, cook your own meals a little bit and have somewhere to retreat to at the end of the day, then that's definitely possible. But there's also the opportunity, of course, to go out and eat and socialise if that's what you'd like to do. Coming to Guatemala, there's a couple of options in Guatemala. What you'd find as a more mature volunteer in Guatemala is that you're likely to be accommodated in a homestay. And many of the homestays there do have options for private rooms and also potentially private rooms with an ensuite, although that's typically not something that we would say is guaranteed. But they do definitely have the facilities to accommodate that request. The Guatemala is based in Antigua, which is a super walkable destination. It's very flat, it's very easy to get around. The only thing I would say about Guatemala, having just come back from there, is that it is all cobbled streets. So if you do find you've got a few mobility issues, that's just something to be mindful of. It certainly doesn't preclude you from joining the program, but it is the roading and the footpath is a little bit what's the word I'm looking for? Unstable, perhaps, is probably a good way of describing it. But it's a fantastic destination. We get a really wide range of age groups joining the Guatemala program, and I can certainly personally recommend it, having just come back. And then I've also put Vietnam as a recommendation. The great thing about the Vietnam program is, in addition to our standard volunteer accommodation, which is in that's shared dorm style, they also do offer options for private rooms in that same accommodation, or they have a hotel right next door to the volunteer accommodation, where if you're interested in something a little bit more private and with those private bathroom facilities, then that's something that's very easy to accommodate there. They also have a great range of different programs and projects that you can do, again, either utilising skills that you already have, teaching, special needs care, or you can get involved in things like the food rescue type projects, where you really get to interact with the community and provide a valuable service there.
Yeah, so yeah, moving on to what I would say my recommendations for the topper ones. So we've got Bali Lavina. So we have two programs that are in Bali. We've got Bali Ubud and we've got Bali Lavina. Bali Lavina is another option where they have those accommodation upgrades into private rooms. It's a slightly smaller program than we have in Ubud, and being based in a smaller community. Volunteers really get involved in the local community, and that's why it's quite a popular option for those older volunteers who want somewhere that's a little bit more smaller and a little bit more niche, and it doesn't hurt that there's a pool at the accommodation, of course, along with those upgrades. The next program would be Zambia. This is one that has accommodation upgrades to private rooms with a private bathroom per week, and it's very affordable. Zambia itself is based in Livingstone, and Livingstone is an amazing city that is a great mix of old and new. You can still go to those traditional markets, buy things from street side vendors, but then they also have cafes, restaurants, supermarkets, everything else you might need. And of course, Victoria Falls are right there, which is one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. It's very easy to go over and visit that during your free time. And the projects they have there is a real mix. So you can get involved in, construction and renovation, teaching, childcare, as well as, medical and healthcare. Again, for those, already working in that area, can get involved in that. The next one would be Morocco. This one again has homestay accommodation, and as I mentioned before, it's just an opportunity to really get a deep cultural immersion. It's the type of culture that maybe not a lot of people have experienced before, but are curious about. The food is absolutely amazing over there, and they also have that great combination of community-based projects. So you've got your teaching, you've got your childcare, you've also got your sports for those who want to get involved in a little bit more of the outdoors type work. And then Jordan, Morocco, they are quite similar destinations with the homestay accommodations that are available there and the type of projects. And of course, Jordan is, it's the only program we've got operating within the Middle East. It's very popular, and it's a great opportunity for obviously all of the history and all the UNESCO sites that are based in and around Amman, Jordan. Again, huge cultural immersion experience and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to get out and see some of those things that they have on offer there.
Amazing. Thanks, guys. Those are some really great recommendations. I can see people in the messages are really latching onto those. So that's really cool. So we'll sort of get into the core types of travelers, I guess we can call them, for our over 40s. And they do tend to cover, you know, sort of solo travel, as the guys mentioned earlier, traveling with your family, with kids, partners, or traveling with friends. So we've got a few little examples here. Claire, why don't you tell everyone a little bit about Julian?
Julian, we love Julian. Yeah, so he is a solo mature volunteer. He's now completed 6 of our programs. As you can see from some of the photos there, he's gotten into a wide variety of destinations and gotten involved in a wide variety of work. He's done some of the community-based ones. He's also done the construction and renovation. He's done some of our programs in more of the remote locations where you get to see the more traditional way people live. As you can see from one of his photos, he's up there in the Maasai lands and in Mount Kilimanjaro. And then, you know, you're down in Cape Town, which is, you know, in South Africa, which is a great metropolitan city that's got absolutely everything you've got at home. So it's a really great opportunity. And, you know, as I said, he's taken part on so many different destinations with us. He really is kind of our go-to expert.
So family travel is another great option, and we have a lot of mothers and daughters going out in groups. When I was in Guatemala, there was a father with his daughter. We have aunts taking their nieces and nephews away for these first overseas experiences, grandparents with their grandchildren, or even just like the whole wider family. So of course, working in the groups department, I can definitely take care of a larger family group as a group, and we can certainly customize an experience a little bit more for your family. But even just traveling in smaller family groups, that's something that we can definitely accommodate. Often we will recommend some private room upgrades or homestays for families, just because it does give you the opportunity to be accommodated together a little bit more. You know, those volunteer houses where we've got the gender specific rooms, sometimes if it's a mother and son, for example, that's less satisfactory, but we can certainly, again, work with you to find something that's going to work well for you in that scenario. But it's just something great to consider if you want to go, but you don't necessarily want to go on your own. Great to consider taking along a family member to have this great experience with, and fantastic for introducing travel and service to the next generation as well.
Yeah, and if you are bringing someone who's age 15 or under at the time they're on the program, they get a half price registration fee.
That's a very great point. But we also have options to travel with a friend. So, you know, as we mentioned earlier, a lot of our volunteers do travel solo, and you will make friends when you go on the volunteer program. You know, you're spending time with like-minded people of all different ages. But you can also choose to volunteer directly with a friend and sort of sign up together. The team will be happy enough to you know, put your applications through together if you want to be accommodated together. We have a cute little example of Kate and Linda, who went to Kerala in India, and it's actually adorable. They only met a few months before they went on the volunteer program, because they're both retired nurses, and they were actually working together during the pandemic. And then after that, they decided they kind of wanted to do volunteering and wanted to do it together. And yeah, so they signed up for the program. As you can see, they had a brilliant time. And yeah, so we have a few people who do sort of sign up with a friend, and if you can get a friend to come along, that's, you know, amazing. So we're going to let Jennifer sort of talk to you guys about her experience. Jennifer, if you'd like to unmute and turn your camera on, that's awesome. So yeah, Jennifer, thanks for joining us today. Can you sort of talk about which program you went on and why you chose to volunteer abroad with your daughter?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. My name's Jennifer. I went on the Ecuador program, the one in Santa Elena, which is on the coast. And I went with my 15-year-old daughter, Lucy, who you can see in the pictures. And I just did it. I just completed it last week. We're actually still here in Ecuador, but we're not doing the volunteer program this week. We're doing a language study for her. And we chose the program, well, full disclosure, I've worked with IVHQ. I represent universities that send students on programs with IVHQ. So when we were looking for a trip for my daughter and I this summer, we wanted to go somewhere that was Spanish speaking, and I immediately was looking at ways that we could also do something with IVHQ that would be a bit more of a local immersion, that would be just a different flavor than being the typical tourist. So we were really motivated to find a program that was interesting for my daughter. Of course, I would find any of the programs interesting, but she was particularly keen on the teaching English. So that's what we ended up choosing last week.
Amazing. And can you tell us a little bit about, the other volunteers that were there at the same time as you, how you interacted? Were you doing the programs together?
Yeah, so we stayed in the volunteer house. We did choose to do a room upgrade so that we were sure that we would have a private room and private bathroom. And that was a really, the accommodations were great. Being in the volunteer house, it was very communal in a way where we shared meals at the same time with everybody that was in the hostel or the volunteer house with us. It just so happened to work out. I'm sure it's not that way every week, but the week that we were there, it happened to work out that there were 3 parent and child groups. So we had a 62-year-old parent and a 17-year-old child, and I don't know, a 40 or 50-something-old parent and a child, and then a 49-year-old parent and a 15-year-old child. And then we also had someone who was in their 30s that was a high school teacher. So it was a mixed group. Everybody happened to be from the United States that week, but they were talking about, some of them were there for a couple weeks, and there were people from all over the world the week prior, and then people from all over the world arriving the week after. So it just sort of happened. But I will say that what was surprising, we were not expecting the interactions with the other volunteers to be such a part of our experience during the week. And it was really lovely. I mean, we made connections with people that we'll keep in touch with and had really interesting conversations. And so that was a big part of something that we were pretty delighted by, that we weren't expecting.
That's awesome. Did you and your daughter feel sort of safe during the trip and comfortable? How was everything in that regard?
Yeah, we absolutely felt safe. The top left picture that you can see with my daughter's kind of taking a selfie with us, with the woman who's like the local team host there. And I mean, she's half my age, but she was like a mother to us. She really felt like a mother hen. And she described during our orientation and our welcome, she was just very, very thorough and very caring about making sure that we were really clear how to be safe and comfortable, and how to reach her at any time. And so that really made a huge difference. And then in the particular neighborhood we were in, of course, that felt really safe. And it was really clear that the community and all the neighbors in that neighborhood were looking out for us. And then they also gave us good briefing and overviews on how to make sure that we were smart about where we chose to go, when, and how. So all of that, the safety was very well covered for us in our orientation. And then in terms of comfort, I mean, I say a caveat with comfort, because we were very comfortable on program, and yet a big part of what we were trying to do was step out of our comfort zone. And so I want to be clear that we did that. We didn't have hot water, and we knew that that was a piece of what we were going to be experiencing in this country. And we had to be more, or my daughter in particular had to be more conscientious about not having her cell phone in her back pocket and wearing AirPods, all the things that we take for granted doing in some places. We had to be more conscientious about that. And that was just a kind of a safety and common sense, but it's something that, you have to have an awareness about it. So yes, we were comfortable, but we were also comfortably uncomfortable, if that makes sense.
That sounds awesome. Sounds like overall the trip was amazing. Did you and your daughter have sort of a highlight?
Yeah, a few highlights. I mean, one, the first day, my daughter was really hoping to teach younger children, and she ended up, just because of there were exams the week that we showed up, and the day that we showed up for classes, there wasn't a younger group of students for us to teach, and we were paired with kids her age and older, so it was like 16, 17-year-olds, and it was a bit intimidating. And by the end of the class, with the kids speaking English to her, one of them asked for her Instagram account, and she has like this, you know, in this day and age, a new pen pal in Ecuador that she communicates with that girl in Spanish, and the girl communicates with my daughter in English, and that's been really sweet. And then I think also just we've been so delighted by how welcoming everybody is on the streets in this country. It's really been a very warm and delightful experience. So.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jennifer. So we'll get into the sort of general Q&A section now. I've had a few questions come through in the chat, so I'll ask the team. They can answer it for us. We've also had some that came through earlier through the submission forms. So the first sort of question that came through is somebody asked, if you pick a destination, does that mean, you know, you're automatically approved? For example, if you pick animal care but you have no experience, will you be able to sort of participate in that program?
Yeah, so for a large majority, we do have a couple that are more kind of vet-based, but we do call them veterinary projects. So for those ones, you do need experience. But for all the other animal care projects, you're working in the placement alongside the staff who run and organize that placement. So they're there to provide you with guidance in your day-to-day tasks. So you don't need to have any experience, you know, working particularly with dogs or cats or other animals in order to take part on those projects.
Cool. And we've also got another question about somebody looking to do something specifically with special needs children. Are there any destinations that you recommend specifically for those projects?
Yes, I think some of the destinations, you know, there's probably some that are more suited to others depending on whether you have experience or not. So what we would recommend doing is identify a destination that appeals and let us know in your application exactly what experience you do have. So that's the best way of determining whether the one that you've chosen is the best option, or whether there is something that's better. So in terms of an application, we really just consider that to be an expression of interest. It will connect you with your program manager at IVHQ, and then they'll be able to see the experience that you have, any questions or concerns that you have about the project that you've chosen, and be able to identify whether that's the best option for you. And if it's not, if you don't have the experience that's required for that particular project, they'll be able to make some recommendations about one that might be a little bit more suitable. And we can always update your application to a new project or to a new destination. That's absolutely not a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you want to have a chat with the team before you actually submit the application and find the right program first. We've got a really great inquiries team here who can help you out with that. You can either fill in the inquiries form where you specify the type of projects you're interested in as well as the type of destinations, and we can give you everything that matches up. Or you can just send us a message letting us know what you're interested in, and we can come back to you with options, ask some additional questions to gather information. That way you know before you submit your application.
Perfect. And that's just info@volunteerhq.org. And obviously we'll put that in the chat as well. So just following on from that, we've had a few people sort of ask us what if they have health restrictions or dietary restrictions, how do we accommodate those? Are they still able to sort of volunteer if they have maybe health conditions?
Yeah, absolutely, not a problem. So, I mean, the main thing is that you make us aware of it in the application. We ask that question, do you have any medical conditions or do you have any dietary requirements? So that we can be sure that we can address these immediately when you're submitting your application. You know, for a majority of our programs, it's absolutely not a problem. They can deal with dietary requirements and, you know, physical or, you know, other disabilities. And so the most important thing is that we know when you apply so that we can provide you with the right information to help you make the right decision.
Awesome. And then, so following on from that, what kind of medical access is available if there was to be an emergency during the time of volunteering?
Yeah, so that's why, I mean, working with a local team is great. We do have 24/7 support from the local team, and they have local clinics and hospitals that they work with and that they know are nearby, that are open at the hour, like if something was needed overnight, for example. They're also very good at knowing, like, for example, if you've got an insurance claim, which clinics are best for handling which insurance providers. But that's the great benefit of having a local team on the ground, is that they're just a phone call away. If something does happen on the placement, on the project, you have got local supervisors who can help you there. If it were to happen after hours, or if you were out doing some sightseeing or something like that, then the local team's just a phone call away or a WhatsApp message away, and they'll be able to support you with any of those medical requirements. Again, the more we know ahead of time, the more information they'll have in order to be able to support you appropriately. So allergies, anything like that that we need to know about. If you did have, you know, an anaphylactic episode or something like that, if we know ahead of time what that is, then you know, we're in a much better position to support you quickly.
Awesome. And what about visas, immunizations, any other special documents? How would people know what they need or require for the volunteer trip?
Yeah, so for almost all of our destinations, there aren't any like legally required vaccinations. There are some within Africa or Latin America where the yellow fever might be required. For other ones, we just have a list of recommended vaccinations that we provide volunteers. And all this information is included in the program guide, which you gain access to once you've registered and you've secured your place in the program, because it kind of is like the next step in that planning. It's once you're like, yes, I'm going to that destination, now I need to get into the nitty-gritty. And of course, we recommend with any vaccinations that you speak with your travel doctor. They're best to provide you with that advice based on, you know, the current WHO standards, as well as on your own medical history. But we provide you with all that information to have a look. And have that chat with them. As far as, you know, visas go, that program guide also has detailed information in regards with the visa requirements and entry for that destination. If there's any destinations where there is a specific requirement where you need to apply in advance or something like that, we always let volunteers know when they apply so that they can factor that into their planning time for the program. Yeah, again, more information on that in the program guide. And for a majority of the projects, there isn't any special documentation or anything you need to bring along. The exception to that is if you are working in like a healthcare or something where we have those qualification requirements. We just need to make sure that you are qualified. And for some of our marine conservation or environmental scuba diving projects, there is a requirement to have a doctor sign off that you are healthy and competent for diving.
Awesome. So yeah, I think basically a lot of the information we do give you is provided in your sort of program guide before you go on your trip, but we are also available to sort of talk to you directly if you're having specific questions. We'll just cover one more and then just get to the last bit because we are sort of a little bit over time, but obviously you guys have had quite a few great questions. So overall sort of safety and transport in terms of getting from the accommodation to the projects to the airport, etc. How does that whole thing work?
Yeah, that one varies greatly depending on whereabouts you're choosing to go. So for some destinations, volunteers are provided with the transport to and from their placement each day, and other ones volunteers have to make their way themselves, whether that be by public transport or walking or another mode of transportation like bikes or things like that. So it really does vary from destination to destination, and how long it takes to get from where you are to your placement also varies. If you're in a, choosing one of our smaller locations, this is quite a small location, you could be a 10-minute walk. If you're looking at like metropolitan Europe, got to deal with, you know, metropolitan Europe traffic. So you can be looking at an hour or a little bit longer to get to and from your destination. But again, if you know that's something you have a concern about, reach out to us. We have all of this information ready and available, and we're always here to answer any volunteers' questions, either before they've you know, submitted an application or after.
Yeah, we have a really great team, and clearly they're all quite knowledgeable. It's not just Mirren and Claire. We have a whole team of program managers. They can talk to you specifically about your destinations and your projects. So yeah, definitely reach out. And if we also have the option to, you know, call and talk to us on the phone. We are people, we're here, we're able, we can talk to you. So we'll just quickly cover off the sort of fees and what you can expect and what that covers. And then I think that'll be us for today.
Yeah, so you see there's 2 fees that are associated with taking part on an IVHQ program. You've got your registration fee and your program fee, and they do cover 2 different aspects of your program. So the registration fee is everything pretty much from when you initially found our website right up until the day you joined that program. So yeah, submitting the application, us processing that here, any help that you need before you register. After you register, you've got that unique program guide, which is specific for your destination, which we you know, update and keep track of here. And then we've got pre-departure training tools, and you can also get access to exclusive quotes for both your travel insurance and flights. Both no obligation, but we find they have a really great deal for all of our volunteers, so they're very popular. And then you have your program fee. That one's not due until 30 days before your start date, but that covers the in-country cost. So that's the cost of hosting you. So the accommodation, any meals that might be included, an airport pickup or an airport meetup, as well as that 24/7 support you get from the local team, the orientation that you take place on your first day. So all of that is included in that program fee.
I just noticed a question pop up about the discounts on flights, and that they it says students, they are accessible to anybody of any age. So just bear that in mind. It's not exclusively for students.
Yeah, absolutely.
We welcome volunteers of all ages, and our services and products are available to volunteers of all ages.
Awesome. And so obviously, you know, if you have more questions, definitely, you know, send them through to us. But in terms of applying and sort of next steps, if you're kind of ready and you want to kick this off, do you guys just want to go through the really easy application process?
Yeah, so the first step is go to the website. You know, there are lots of ways you can submit an application. You can do it via the main page. You can go to the specific program or project page. Lots and lots of ways you can do that. The application only takes 5 to 10 minutes to complete. As we mentioned before, the most important thing is that you provide us with all the information that we need to make sure that you're getting the best program possible. Once you submit that application, we process that for you. We send you out an acceptance email. You can reply to that with any questions you might have. You can give us a call. You can send us a message. You can send us a change request if you need to change. So that's kind of at that stage there. And then you submit that registration, and that's what secures your place on the program. And that's when you really start with that preparation and, like I said, gain access to that pre-departure checklist with the insurance, the flights, and the program guide in there. I just wanted to note, I've seen a lot of questions pop up about ages. IVHQ accepts volunteers of absolutely all ages. We've had volunteers right up until their late 80s join our programs as part of the family and solo volunteers. And we do accept volunteers as young as 3 years old when they're taking part with a family unit. So you can definitely bring your teenager along to most destinations. We do have some with a few restrictions due to the type of work or the accommodation available. But again, we've got a team here who's ready to help and answer any questions you might have.
And it's also worth noting that we have a great flexible booking policy. You know, if you play the registration, you lock in a date and a program and a destination, you can make changes right up until 14 days before you go, absolutely free. Our team is very accommodating. They'll obviously talk you through all the process. And yeah, so, you know, don't feel like you're locked in if you do decide to, you know, pay the registration and get your project going. You still have plenty of options right up until then. So yeah, that's us for today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Mirren and Claire, for being so great at telling us about everything coming, answering all the questions. And thank you so much, Jennifer, for talking about your experience.
Thanks everybody for your time. Hope to see you in a program.